no thanks. But bill counters, you mean they're not? Yes. Joining us right now, James Pethokoukis, Reuters Breaking Views columnist and a CNBC contributor. Also, Uri Man, a global market strategist from Uri Man Review. Great to see both you guys. Uri, you're saying yes. Tell us why you think there should be a bank tax.
Look, even the most misguided tax policies make sense in certain situations. A tax on the banking sector could make sense if it's coordinated globally, but only under certain situations. I would only be in favor of a bank tax if it meant restructuring the entire tax system in this country. Right now, we tax investment instead of taxing consumption. We should eliminate or reduce corporate taxes as much as possible, eliminate or reduce personal taxes, income taxes as much as possible, and instead we should be taxing consumption by instituting a value-added tax. And unfortunately today our tax policies are so misguided.
Get us back to why you think there's a bank tax that we need, specifically a bank tax.
Well, a bank tax would make sense only in those scenarios when you're basically taxing a system only to recoup the losses that were incurred based on the bailout. So that's my third reason why I'd be in favor of a bank tax, only if we actually were limiting it to recovering certain dollars that were lost during the actual bailout.
Jim, you can hear the Main Street argument, though. These guys are going to go home, you know, this December with huge bonuses. At the same time, the rest of America is still suffering. You can hear the average person saying, why don't we tax them to repay the system, to repay the borrowing? I mean, what's the answer to that?
Well, remember, the whole supposed rationale for the original bank tax was to repay TARP. But of course, the banks are repaying TARP, which has completely undercut that rationale, which is why this bank tax right now is going nowhere. Remember that this tax was not created, was not proposed for economic reasons. This is a tax created by the White House political team, David Axelrod in particular, to try to defeat Scott Brown in Massachusetts. That didn't work. The things had no momentum, which is why it's not going anywhere. And if you could tell me how this bank tax is going to add 1 decimal point to GDP, how it's going to add 1 job, I'd like to hear it, but I don't think there is an economic rationale.
I mean, that's the thing, Uri. The TARP money is basically being paid down, and it just seems like this is no time to raise taxes, including taxes on bank profits, corporate profits, or whatever. So why are you flirting with this? What is the source of your flirtation? You're showing a little leg. You're batting your eyes at the bank tax. I'm trying to figure out exactly what you have there.
Okay, our current administration has put this country in such a disastrous situation. I mean, we basically nationalized the debt markets for housing, and sooner or later the government's going to have to pull back. And where are they going to get the money to pay for that? And I hope they're just not just going to keep printing money. So this is probably the only alternative they have currently to help them. We're talking about
I can think of another alternative.
Yeah.
I can think of another, which would be like maybe
stop
spending a little bit. I know it's kind of crazy. I'm going to throw that out there.
But Jim, what about the idea? I mean, what if they levied some kind of tax in order to get Freddie and Fannie back on the right track, or help unwind them, or something like that? I mean, I'm trying so hard to be the devil's advocate here. Help me out.
Right. Well, I'm not sure why you would want to put a tax on the banks to take care of the the $150 billion that we sunk in Fannie and Freddie. But I will say, purely from like what might happen politically, I think that is absolutely possible. During the last days of the negotiations over the Frank Dodd financial reform bill, there was a proposal from Republican Jed Hensarling to put a tax on banks to help pay for Fannie and Freddie. That went down. I think in this next Congress, banks don't have a lot of friends on either side of the aisle, so I would expect it to be another attempt to put a bank tax, justifying it for some reason, maybe for Fannie and Freddie.
Jim,
I think bank investors need to worry about that.
We know that the banking sector is already on very tenuous ground, given the foreclosure crisis going on right now. What would something like this, a potential tax, mean to their bottom lines and to the entire system?
Well, what's interesting is we're really not sure about the health of the banking system. Obviously it's much healthier than it was 2 years ago. We don't know the full fallout from this foreclosure mess, what the losses for that are going to be. We're not sure, again, what this economy is going to look like over the next year. And the tax on top of that, plus remember, we also want there's also the carried interest still floating around out there. Another $100 billion?
You see what's so great about this is, now that I understand, Uri is coming at Jimmy P from the right. Uri's kind of a flat tax reform, pro-growth guy.
He's outflanked me.
I didn't know there was any space over there on the right edge, but that is the coolest part of this. Uri, you are terrific. We'd like to see more of you. Hope you come back. Jimmy P, thanks ever so much. Let us move on. Let us move on. When we come back, a CNBC exclusive.